Hi there. Hello. Mm, mm. How do you teach your parents to filter their content? Oh, sorry. My dad sometimes he gets pushed. So everyone in Ukraine gets pushed reels in Russian and Ukrainian. So Russian because Instagram and it doesn't like differentiate between Ukrainian and Russian. So if someone is speaking Russian, like these reels are going to be pushed to you. So my dad very often gets pushed reels in Russian. And he just sent me like a reel about this girl showing like a Sephora in Catalonia, Spain. And I'm like, Father, this is a Russian person. Don't watch it. and um and I have to teach him social media literacy because my dad is really bad at all things social media, really all things technology, really like so bad. Um But so we're going to start the live today with some good news. Next week, sometime after Monday, which I mean, duh, I'm going to be discussing a new job um, on a media platform, an independent media platform. We technically just agreed on the terms and conditions, and I have to go to their office and basically just iron out last bits. And then we're going to figure out sort of like what type of studio we're going to be using and stuff. But the idea is that one of the things we're going to be doing is going to be like a 5 days a week show of sort of like news updates, but they're not going to be like daily news updates like I do here. They're more so going to be sort of like updates. It's going to be like a mix of geopolitical, historical literacy that also shows how Russia is invading the West. So, you know, kind of like that. I guess that's the best way to describe it. And then a weekly show, so once a week with an expert, sort of like FAQU was. So yeah, kind of like that. So I'm going to be taking tweets, like ridiculous tweets of like the most recent sort of like loud propaganda, and me and an expert are going to be talking about it. So that's sort of um where where like the direction is going. I'm very excited, hopefully. So we're not going to talk about this anymore because if I'm superstitious in one thing is like I don't like to get overly excited about something before it happens. So there's that. Okay. Let me say hellos. Hi John. Hi Taz. Hi Grumpy. Hi Juju. Hi Niels. Hi Karen. Hi Nick. Hi Prexis. Hi Dominic. Hi Morgana Cat. Hi Carolyn. Also, hi Coleslaw. Thank you for following. And hi Joe. Hi everyone on TikTok. Hi Odin. Hi Michael. Also, you guys, I'm going to ask you for a favor. So I uploaded a TikTok has been shadow banning me like crazy lately. So there are two favors I'm asking, one of my YouTube audience and one of my TikTok audience. If you're on TikTok and you can go and like, share, and like whatever hi GF Ballman and hi Gario. So if you are on TikTok, can you please go and engage with my past like 3 videos, because genuinely, like when I say shadow ban, I mean like I'm barely getting 1,000 views, and it's not about the views, but it is because it's like the more people see the news about Ukraine, the more people see the news about Ukraine, and when TikTok really suppresses my views, which happens every 2 to 3 months, and it's so annoying. It really helps when people engage with videos and push them out, because then the algorithm is like, oh wait, people want to see this content. So yeah, and if you can, if I don't show up on your FYP, then thank you so much, Brian. And if I don't show up on your FYP, then you can just go and search for me. Oh, thank you, John. You can just go and search for me in the like a couple of times in your search button, and then the algorithm algorithm is going to think that, like, you are like you're seeking me out, so it's going to show you my videos. So yeah, there are a couple of tips and tricks, and that's something that I'm going to ask you to do. And then thank you so much, John. And then there were also a couple. Hi, Bob. I haven't watched 20 Days in Mariupol. How depressed will I be if I watch it? I mean, I don't know how to answer that, to be honest. It's not like, it is intense. It is not as gory as, like, documentaries about war usually are, but it's very emotionally intense. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Good to see you. And hi, Sonios. Hi, Walter. Hi, everyone. And thank you, John. Also, hi, Matthew. So hit the like button. Oh my gosh, Matthew, you're so funny. If you are on YouTube, then I'll ask you to engage with my latest short, because there is this trend on TikTok where basically people are, quote, paying off each other's debts, unquote, and it's kind of by views, because if your videos go viral and you have really good engagement, then Creator Fund pays quite decently for it. But I haven't seen it done on YouTube, and so I created a short for YouTube, and basically all you got to do is just, engage with it, like it and stuff like that. And it might very much help. And it started slightly blowing up, which is kind of like surprising, because my YouTube shorts never really see the light of day. Or if they do, it's like a very minimal light of day. So it was interesting. And to be honest, YouTube Creator Fund, or whatever it is, like YouTube monetization, is much better than TikTok. It's just well, it's a slippery slope, sort of. It's like thank you, John. It's sort of like kind of like, it's easier to get bulk of views on TikTok, because sometimes your videos just like shoot up, right? But for instance, if you're in Ukraine, so this is like what is it, like a minute of honesty of how money works on different platforms, right? So technically, it should be easier to make money on TikTok, because TikTok usually pushes your videos and you get a lot of views. If your views are not coming from Americans on TikTok, your RPM is going to go lower. TikTok also prioritizes groups of people who are like in their 20s or early 30s with disposable income that they like to spend on useless shit. Reasonably, that's my category, that's my age category, and trust me, I know we like to spend money on useless shit. So basically, your RPM, which is pay per 1,000 views, is going to be the highest if you are being watched by Americans. I think it's the UK, because most of the like TikTok shop sends stuff there. I think Australia too. Basically, wherever TikTok shop is functional, that's where your views like monetize the most. And then it's also, they pay you more if 20-year-olds watch you, or 30-year-olds watch you. They pay you less if it's like 13-year-olds or however old, or if it's 40 plus, because they assume that you are not going to be buying useless shit on TikTok, which normally is correct. So I am mostly watched by Ukrainians on TikTok. Like, my videos are being shared by Ukrainians mostly, which means that my I think my highest RPM in the past like 8 months was 12 cents per 1,000 views. While if you're watched by Americans of the preferable age category for TikTok, you usually get about 80 cents to $1.50 per 1,000 views. So you can imagine how much smaller that RPM is. So my not that I ever made a lot of money on TikTok, I didn't, but I could make a couple of $100 a month. And now I think my highest check from TikTok was like $50. So yeah, that's kind of how it works on YouTube. However, it's much harder to gain views because YouTube prioritizes like more quality content, right? But if you watch, so like your watch time matters. Like if you watch the full short, if you watch like half of the video as opposed to like only the first 5 minutes of it and stuff like that, that influences monetization. And YouTube RPM does not depend on how much money you can spend on useless stuff, because like YouTube is not a shopping platform, really. Like, I mean, there are ads and stuff like that, but YouTube is kind of like that. And YouTube also, because it's harder to monetize, because you actually have to put a lot more effort into the content and it's long form content, even with shorts, it pays a lot more. But again, it's harder to get like a reasonable amount of views. So my idea with this was like, hey, shorts pay quite well if they're viral. But by viral, I mean like, a couple of 100,000 views. It's you could make like a decent amount of money, and it doesn't cost anyone anything other than like a minute of their time to just finish watching, or like 2 minutes of your time, because you finish watching the short, which is like a minute, and then you comment and like it and stuff like that. And if you feel so generous, you can also send a super thanks in the amount of like $1.99, because if you send super thanks on videos, these videos are also pushed further, because any sort of engagement like really works with it. But that's just like a very extra situation. I am just asking you to like, comment, repost, engage, press all the buttons, save buttons, and stuff like that. So yes, my YouTube shorts don't get any views. Well, neither did mine, to be honest. Like, I think mine get like very few, unless it's something very, very heated political, or interestingly, I love your shirt, thanks. Or interestingly, it's if I post like some very, very kind of like, oh, my day in Kyiv type of thing, which I really want to go back to that format as well, because I think I really liked showing people like everyday life in Kyiv. It's just that recently I've been cooped up in my apartment trying to figure out like new segments, trying to find a channel I want to work with so I could like, put my work in front of bigger audiences. It's been very stressful. I have some like personal things going on in the backgrounds, as per usual. And I don't like talking about, personal things, tak, в Києві, personal things online that much. So, it's just, I sort of haven't really been doing anything like interesting to show you. Like, I'm not going to take you on my like grocery like, random grocery trip for like peanut butter, or like a walk down the street to like a store where I need to get an extension cord. Have you got any sleep? Yeah, I've actually been sleeping better. Well, I mean, with an exception of the past couple of days, because we've been having rolling blackouts in Kyiv. And my building started getting them, I think, 2 days ago. So my first night was appalling, really, because there was a huge, and I mean like massive, gas generator outside of my building, right on the side where my windows are facing, and sound travels up. I am very high up. So, I don't know if you have ever heard what like an electricity generator powered by gas sounds like, but imagine the size of a generator that's needed to power an elevator. So that was outside of my window downstairs, and my AC wasn't working, and it was a really hot night. So I like opened all the windows in my apartment to create sort of like a, what's it called? Oh my gosh. What is that? What's like a huge draft? No, that's not a draft. Um uh ATB run for motion video. Not breeze. No, it's like cross flow. Yeah. Cross breeze. Yeah. So to create sort of like a cross breeze, and so if I would close the window, it would be scorching hot in my room, and if I opened the window, I would just hear the generator, and that went on from like 3 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. So I kept waking up and just like burying my head under pillows, because I was just like, kill me. And then last night was okay. I mean, like, the only problem is that so light went off at 9 p.m., which also was like just such bad timing, because we have a schedule of electricity turnoffs, but basically like they don't always turn off the electricity when it's scheduled, and then they can turn it off at the next time that it's scheduled, and like the blackout is going to last longer. So last night, for instance, it was supposed to be 9 to 12, and it ended up being 9 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. And it was the worst timing, because first of all, my lives are at midnight. Like, I was just sort of like, I came home at 9, or I came home at 9:15, and they turned it off at 9. And, I I needed to get a ceiling fan from the TikTok shop. TikTok shop doesn't send to Ukraine, I don't think it does. But so I basically, came home at 9:15. The light was off at 9. I walked in, it's, like, pitch black. There is no light in my apartment, like, nothing works. I have this lamp that charges that stands here, it's like an, LED lamp that's behind my computer that I use for lives. So that was fully charged, and I was just, like, walking around with it because that was my source of light. And then at some point, I just gave up, and and I, what's its face? And I just gave up, and I lit up like 3 candles, put them on the chair in front of me, on the chair, on the table, on the coffee table in front of me, and I was just like, "Okay, well, that's great." Um, and then, um, yeah, so that was, a very romantic setup that I did not ask for me, myself, and I, and Cinny. And Cinny was super hot too because she doesn't she, like, Cinny is a princess. She doesn't like the heat. So she was just, like, constantly making her, like, little growling noises, and she kept so when she's too hot, when she's asleep, she starts, like, moving in her sleep, and she'll start, like, hitting me with her paws because she's just kind of like, being like, annoyed. And yeah, and so she keeps hitting me with her little paws. And that was my evening. And then, yeah, EcoFlow Tuesday. Show us Cinny. Okay, well, let me I'll show you Cinny at the end of the live, okay? Because she's, like, kind of like, she's settled right now, and if I pick her up from her little bed, she's going to start asking for attention, and then she's going to be distracting me, and then I'm gonna have to pet her and stuff. And right now, her ears are already up because I said her name so many times. But yes. So a candlelit live. Yeah, well, I was thinking about it, but also, my laptop, I couldn't charge my laptop, right? And when I came home at first, I used my laptop to, like, do a bunch of stuff because I had to edit a video and, like, all of these things. And so by the time that I would be doing a live, my laptop was at 15%, and, like, my camera is plugged into my laptop, so is my mic. So, like, 15% would not get us anywhere. I might not hold my sleep till the end. Oh, that's okay. Go to sleep, Taz, whatever you need. I can't sleep in heat. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Okay, so we are ready to start the news. Poor wait, you guys, Brandy on YouTube says, "Poor Cinny, it's awful to be hot when you're trying to sleep." I agree. But note how not poor Yulia, a human being, it's awful to be hot when you're trying to sleep, but poor Cinny, my little spoiled princess French bulldog, who's trying to sleep in this heat. This is so sad that Cinny couldn't sleep because that dog doesn't sleep half of her life. Every, everywhere she wants. Um everywhere she wants. And yeah. How about a show on how you are invading the West? Who's you in this situation? It's awful to be upstaged constantly by your dog. Nah, it's okay. I mean, she's cute. I understands. I really do understands. She is adorable. My fan has a backup battery, so if the power goes out, it works still. Oh, that's awesome. We care about you too, Yulia. I don't know, Brandy. I don't know. So you guys, our fundraiser is at $4,575.91. If you would like to contribute to the fundraiser, you can do so through the links that Grumpy right, is going to post in the comment section on YouTube in a second. If you are on TikTok, you can do so through my link in bio, which is right under my profile picture. And you can find my Venmo, my PayPal there, and Revolut and Buy Me a Coffee is the same as Venmo. Also, this is a fundraiser for a thermal DJI Mavic 3 Pro drone for an HUR unit of the AFU. And since it's the beginning of the live and this is the only time I'm going to do that, if you have the opportunity to contribute to my work by subscribing to the YouTube membership, channel membership, or TikTok live membership, or to Patreon, or to Buy Me a Coffee, that is super appreciated. It goes a very, very long way and really, really helps me. Helps me pay bills, also helps me, increase the quality of my streams and constantly evolve. Because if I didn't have to worry about Cindy. Not Cinny. I always worry about Cinny. Okay, Sin. 1 second. Sinwana, come here. What are you doing? Okay, yeah, go into your bed. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Sorry. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for subscribing to the live feature. Or to thank you for subscribing to the live or to the live feature. Sorry, Cinny was like being very weird. So if you have the ability to do that, it's super, super appreciated. It really does help me, because if I did not have to constantly worry about staying afloat, I would be able to create a lot more content, because I wouldn't be looking for jobs, doing jobs and stuff like that. So thank you very, very much. I super appreciate that. And yeah. Thank you. And hi, Brandy. Thank you so much for becoming a member. I really, really do appreciate that. And welcome to the Spy Lair. Most of you probably weren't here when we called it Spy Lair, so it makes zero sense to you. But I used to be called a spy. I used to be called a CIA agent on TikTok by various trolls. So we decided that I'm a Ukrainian American spy, and I just fully leaned into the character. And we used to call basically all of our lives and like all of our community, like places where we can chat and stuff, Spy Lair. So, oh my God, that's so cool, Brandy. Also, Jason over here, well, not that Jason, sorry, another Jason, because there are two Jasons, but just donated a particular amount to PayPal. It's 78 cents. And you know why? Because now our total is $4,576.69. Because, I mean, you can imagine why. Because men. Okay. Ukrainian law enforcement agencies have identified 357 Russian servicemen and representatives of the occupation authorities suspected of committing war crimes, 83 of whom have already been convicted. Kostin noted that the Prosecutor General's office is open to increased cooperation to ensure effective investigation of these and other war crimes and to bring the guilty to justice. So this, on a weird tangent and on a weird, like, sort of brain train of thought, this reminded me of a topic that I wanted to talk about, because someone on TikTok with with no ill intentions asked me why women are not being mobilized the same way as men are, if we are like a country who's trying to have equality and stuff like that. So that's a very good question. And I think I have an ability to explain it. So one of the reasons why women are not being mobilized the same way as men are lies in literally biology. An average man can carry out an average man out of the battlefield. It simply comes down to strength. So when you are thinking of people in infantry, which is a job we need the most people for in the military, that's where most of these things happen. And we need the most infantry. In infantry, you need to be a big dude to carry out people that are injured. Women are often not taken into infantry positions simply because, unless you're an extra strong woman, if you're an average woman with an average body build and with an average strength, you're not going to be able to carry out a man twice your size off the battlefield. You're both going to become a fatality. So, women make really, really good snipers. Women make really good mortar battery operators because small, easy on their feet and stuff like that. But 30% of our military is already women. So we do not necessarily need people for the positions that women usually occupy because there are enough people joining these positions. We need infantry. Infantry is mostly men for the reasons that I already said before. Another thing is, so if you take an average out of shape dude, and if you take an average out of shape woman, it's going to take a lot more money and time to get that that woman, to a shape in which she's going to be able to do the same things and carry the same loads as a guy. Because you also need to think about equipment and how much that weighs. So if you're like a 90 to 110-pound woman or 120-pound woman, it's going to be incredibly hard for you. And for you to build the muscle to be able to carry these things, it's going to take a lot more time. So that's a lot more money spent on training and a lot more time that soldier isn't on the front. Another thing that people never think about, and this is something that I think is going to be very sort of shocking. Well, the first part of it is not going to be, but the second part is. So every single woman that has gone through Russian captivity has been gang R-worded multiple times. Gang essayed. Every single woman has been essayed, and in a lot of cases, it's gang essay. Lots of horrific things happen to men as well. So I'm not saying that men don't get essayed or men don't get tortured. This is not where I'm going with it. Not every man in captivity gets essayed. Every woman in captivity does get essayed, gang essayed. Russia is a country that has some of the highest HIV rates in the world, or in Europe, or let's say in, quote, civilized world, unquote. A lot of the people on the Russian front lines are convicts and, pardon my French, lowlives. So a lot of the people in the military in Russia, I bet you, because they're cannon fodder, have HIV. So women who are going to be captured are definitely going to go through a series of assays. That's going to create a major health crisis for this country, while we are already overwhelmed in our healthcare system because of the amount of amputations and injuries. Also, women give birth to children, and our population is being murdered. So we do need women to give birth to children as no matter how sort of unempathetic and cold that sounds, or calculated. But that's also going to be a significantly larger problem if women of birthing age are going to be infected with HIV. Yeah, so there are a lot, and there are a lot of reasons of why women are not being mobilized the same, they're not mobilized the same way as men are. And then also, it is a very patriarchal society still. A lot of women are housewives. A lot of women have multiple children. A lot of women depend on like their man's income or whatever. A lot of women are at home. So, for instance, if both parents, so in Western world, grandparents usually have like a decent pension or decent retirement or saved up for retirement, because most older people come from the Soviet Union. They don't really have savings. Our grandmas and grandpas, in most cases, are people who cannot really take care of like a kid if both of the kid's parents are at the front. So, so, um, it's really hard to enforce because, for instance, in the West, right, like if both parents are at the front, the grandparents will take over the kid or like family members or something like that. In Ukraine, it's going to be hard to be dependent on the grandparents because a lot of them live in deep villages and most of them likely will not have enough money to support a kid, and they will not be able to support a kid in a way that their like health is very different, and they live in like, you know, a house somewhere like in a deep village, and it's a whole different situation. You can't necessarily rely on them. So, and that's the case for a lot of people. So, yeah, it's just a very different society. Then people were asking me, why don't we decrease the mobilization age to 18? And that is a fantastic question. And you know, all of these Ukrainians who are complaining about mobilization and complaining about like the like, you know, the drop in the mobilization age. And they're like, well, if this was in America or if this was in Europe, yeah, if this was in America or if this was in Europe, then a full scale mobilization would be announced and you would literally be taken out of your home if you would not report to the fucking military commissariat on time, because America and Europe do not fuck around when it comes to a full scale invasion. Okay, so for the people in Ukraine, for the men in Ukraine who are like, well, like this is infringement on human rights, la 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 la. Like, actually, Ukraine right now is being way more democratic than most Western civilized, as we call them, countries would have been had they been in this situation. We cannot decrease the age of mobilization to 18 immediately because, as you know, our society is very prone to revolting and our society is very prone to overthrowing the government if the government does not represent the people anymore. Um, if they were to drop the mobilization age to 18 right away, I promise you, this country would revolt. So they have to do it in increments and they have to do it slower because simply like there's just going to be a revolt and then it's going to really like screw over a lot of stuff. So it's funny to me when people are like, oh, Zelensky is becoming a dictator because there is no like presidential voting. It's like, you guys, if we wanted to change a president, you bet we would. Okay, like Ukraine has zero problems with our active civil society. But the point is, yeah, we can't really do we can't really do the same mobilization as it would be in the West, because in the West people would just in most cases would just be like, well, okay, they could try to like dodge the draft and stuff, but like no one would revolt against it because that's not necessarily like traditionally what's done. Here it would be a bit of a different picture. So yeah, so we can't necessarily do it the same way as like everybody wants us to do it. So tread lightly, so to speak. Okay. Yeah, in the US, we all have to enroll in the draft at 18 and can go to prison for not reporting. Yeah, see, in Ukraine, that's not the case. And funny, it's because, you know, the grass is always greener on the other side. It's like the grass is always greener on the other side, and it's like so funny to me when people in here are like, this is authoritarian. Um, this is authoritarian, like blah blah blah, like, you know, this is not okay, like if this was in the US, human rights, blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I've lived in the US, like you know nothing about the US. You see the US through the prism of like cool Hollywood movies. Like, no one in the US in a full scale invasion like World War II style would let you freaking sit there and yap about your human rights. Like, you would be at the front. And if you wouldn't report to your military commissariat and you wouldn't report to it on time, there would be dudes in military uniform showing up at your door and bringing you there. Don't you worry about it. Yulia, have you seen the New York Times recent post on Instagram calling the Russian counteroffensive in Kharkiv Oblast stunning? What are your thoughts on this sort of phrasing? I have not seen that, but the New York Times is garbage. It has become the most bottom of the barrel feeding garbage in the news industry that I have seen in the last 2 years. The New York Times consistently posts Russian journalists, literally journalists that have been writing Russian propaganda up until 2022, and they're posting them now again. Hi, Jeff. Thank you for following, Mark. The New York Times has been posting articles with phrasing like that all the time. They consistently parrot Russian propaganda. They consistently parrot Russian narratives. They give platform to Russians. They give platforms to the good Russians. They constantly try to whitewash Russia and Russians. They consistently have controversial articles. Like, do not, and I repeat, do not read the New York Times or consider it a trustworthy top shelf publication anymore. It's I have no words to describe how much, like, the New York Times went from a top tier, top shelf publication to a cheap, disgusting, yellow pages. I will tell you that I consider the New York Times worse than the Sun at this point. That's how bad it is. I consider it worse than the Sun. Let it sink in. You know, France supports US plan to use Russian assets to finance Ukraine. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said before the meeting of the G7 countries in the Italian town of Stresa that Paris is open to using the income from the assets of the Russian Federation as best and as quickly as possible within the limits of international law. Le Maire noted that he had previously warned the US authorities that the full confiscation of assets would be contrary to international law and the rules of the global financial system. Poland will increase the number of troops on the border with Belarus. I'm sorry. Sorry, there is like a thing on TikTok that says if I don't take requests, then I'm an echo chamber of propaganda. News anchors don't take requests on at news hour. It's a normal thing. I'm literally reading the news and explaining them from my perspective. I don't owe you to invite you up to have a conversation. This is not a conversation live. This is a news updates live. I give my perspective. You can take it. You can choose not to take it. But this is a news update live. You're not owed your presence on it. If you want to go on a debate live, you can do that. If you want to go on a live where people are discussing their opinions, you can do that. It's a news live with my opinion. I don't need to say that in the bio because it's literally anytime a news anchor provides you with the news and I cite you the sources I take these news from. Sorry, I got lost. ADHD. Anytime a news anchor provides you with the news, you know that if they comment on it, it's the news anchor's opinion. That's what happens in the studio. That's what I'm doing. I don't need to put that in the bio. It literally says Ukraine news live in the title of the live. And it's not a debate live. It's not necessary for a live to be a debate live or a discussion live for it to not be propaganda. It's news. And I give you the sources from which I take the news. And then I explain them from a history and geopolitics perspective. based on obviously what I know as someone who reports on geopolitics as a Ukrainian in Ukraine. Poland will increase the number of troops on the border with Belarus, said Minister of Defense of the country, Kosiniak-Kamysz. According to him, the measures will be taken due to the increasing attempts of organized groups to illegally cross the border with the assistance of Belarusian services. We did go into details on that in the live before this one, but unfortunately it got taken down because I was showing a big portion of a really good breakdown of how Russian propaganda is created and how it sticks with the American society, which is in my community tab on YouTube if you're interested in watching it. This is not just a desire to make money by transporting people and sending them across the border. Now it is very organized by our enemy countries. Groups of these people are becoming more and more numerous. Belarusian services are helping to transport them, and in our opinion, they're preparing to force the Polish-Belarusian border, noted the minister. So here's the thing: Russia and Belarus are doing that to create an issue at the Polish border, to distract Polish politicians and Polish authorities from the actual problems and have to act and think of how to act to the Polish border situation. So what that does is Poland is obviously a very important logistics hub for the entire world right now, because it is where all the aid passes through, where like all the supplies to Ukraine pass through. It's a huge hub. So disrupting Poland is really good for Russia. The Stanford International Working Group on Sanctions against Russia recommends depriving Russia of access to modern technology through comprehensive export controls, similar to those imposed on the USSR during the Cold War, reports RTVI. More than 2 years after the start of the war in Ukraine, despite international sanctions, Russia has not lost access to microelectronics, CNC machines, software, and components used in the defense sector. Moreover, weak compliance with sanctions has allowed Russia to increase military production. The report states, in response, the Stanford International Working Group suggests strengthening technological bans on Russia. Hey guys, don't gang up on the person. I don't think they were meaning to be offensive or anything like that. I think they might have been misunderstood, and unless they say something incredibly offensive or really bad, don't be mean. There is no reason. Okay. The group proposes recreating the Coordinating Committee on Export Controls, COCOM, which is something that had to have been created way before. The thing is that, like, it's been 2.5 years into this invasion, right? And Russia still gets microchips. Russia still gets advanced Western technology that it shouldn't be getting. And I mean, you know that I get incredibly annoyed when I hear about these proposals from the Western world, as if it's like, oh my God, we should create a coordinating committee on export controls. Genius idea, as if it's like an enlightenment that just came to someone that has never been done before. It should have been done immediately. The second that export and import sanctions were imposed, this should have been done in order to prevent Russia using loopholes. Established by the Western Bloc in the early World War II years during the Cold War to enforce a technological embargo against the countries of the Council of Mutual Economic Assistance, CMEA. COCOM controlled exports to the USSR and other socialist countries within the CMEA. Yeah, because it's not only Russia where exports need to be controlled to. It's Kazakhstan, it's Georgia, it's Kyrgyzstan, it's Armenia. It's all the countries bordering Russia, because even if the government is against Russia or whatever, but they don't have embargoes and export controls with Russia, then Russia uses these territories to bring things into Russia. For instance, you can stop selling advanced microchips to UAE, because that's where a lot of Russians are, and that's a hub of buying American technology and sending it to Russia through. So UAE, once you threaten them with an embargo, is going to close that shop real quick and will not let Russians take anything out of the country, because they're not going to want to lose the economic partnerships and opportunities. And this is how you do it, because Russia doesn't care about import and export embargoes. They're using neighboring countries and literally the Emirates to get what they need. It included 17 states such as the USA, Great Britain, France, Germany, Japan, and Turkey. The organization mainly restricted the export of weapons, nuclear related equipment, and technologies and dual use industrial goods to the USSR. The dual use goods are one of the largest problems because it's really hard to control, and it's really hard to sort of like decide immediately or know immediately what could be dual use, because hey, Russians have been taking chips out of washing machines and microwaves and stuff like that. Hi, Gord. Good to see you. The US State Department is working on easing the prohibition on striking targets in Russia with US weapons, the New York Times says. According to the article, Joe Biden's administration is now actively debating whether to ease the ban to allow Ukrainians to hit missile and artillery launchers located directly across the border from Russia. Hi, Truthful. Journalists report Journalists report the debate was initiated by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken after he returned from Kyiv last week. His opinion really changed when he returned from Kyiv. Honestly, Blinken, I don't know what Kyiv did to him. I don't know. Maybe that was his evening, playing guitar and singing his favorite songs on a stage of a bar with a band. I'm only joking. But honestly, he's been pushing very hard for that. Also, Mikey Mike, little Moscow Mike, has been pushing for that too, because of course now he depends on the Democrats. His ass in the government depends on the Democrats' approval and on Democrats liking him. So now he's all gung ho. Ukraine needs to win. We cannot restrict their access. They should be able to do everything. They should be able to do everything they want to do with the weapons we give them. Hi, Nasta. Oh my God. Harry, hi. Do you know if John Aravosis is on TikTok? Yeah, he should be. I don't know if he has a live right now, but he's definitely on TikTok. Officials involved in the discussion on the matter said Blinken's position has changed because the Russians had opened a new front in the war with devastating results. Moscow's forces have placed weapons right across the border from the northeastern Ukraine and aimed them at Kharkiv, knowing the Ukrainians would only be able to use non-American drones and other weaponry to target them in response. Now the pressure is mounting in the United States to help Ukraine target Russian military sites, even if Washington wants to maintain its ban on attacking oil refineries and other Russian infrastructure with American-provided arms, which is necessary, and you're going to see why in the next story. Also, hi, Frank. Hi, good to see you. So here are some updates from Kharkiv. 5 people were injured in the shelling of Kharkiv, said the head of the regional military administration, Syniehubov. According to him, Russian forces carried out around 10 strikes. The Russian army also shelled Zolochiv in Kharkiv region. At least 2 people were injured. A private enterprise was hit in Kharkiv. It was a printing house. So, when people ask, oh, if there were so many good Ukrainian writers, if there were so many good Ukrainian writers, then why haven't we heard of any of them? Well, Russia systematically and systemically destroys them. Russia imprisons them. Russia represses them. Russia kills them. Russia assassinates them. Executed Renaissance, for one. Russia consistently tries to kill off Ukrainian elites. And by elites, I mean luminaires and people who can spread Ukrainian tradition and history and literature and knowledge and Ukrainian, talents, sort of like innovation and stuff like that. Russia consistently tries to kill them off. And so a printing house was destroyed in Kharkiv, where books are printed. And as Nick just pointed out, He learned today that about 90% of Ukraine's literature is printed in Kharkiv, and that's true. Kharkiv has a lot of print houses, and this one was a large one. According to preliminary information, there is 1 killed and 6 injured. According to Kharkiv Mayor Igor Terechov, the location of 3 other people cannot be established due to a large fire. So later, there was an update. The death toll from Russia's attack on Kharkiv has risen to 2, with 7 people injured, Mayor Terechov noted. However, last time I've seen an update, it was 3 people killed and 16 injured. And I think it has gotten up to 5. Oh my gosh. Hi, Arthur. So yeah, in the meanwhile, this is why we need to be getting drones for our defenders so they can destroy Russian military targets based on the reconnaissance that they can get. So if you would like to donate to the fundraiser that kind of stalled because we haven't really been getting any, we have gotten some donations on the previous live, and we have gotten some actually I think we have gotten like maybe $50 in the past couple of lives altogether. So if anybody has ability to donate to this fundraiser for a thermal drone, we are at $4,576.69 plus Frank's donation of $50 just now, which brings us to $4,626.69. 69 cents, because there is one man in this audience who really likes the 0.69, because very mature. But thank you so much for your donation, Frank. And if anybody else wants to donate, you can do so through the links right here on YouTube. Also, Revolut is an option, and it's the same as my Venmo, and so is Buy Me a Coffee. Also the same as my Venmo and my YouTube channel. And if you would like to donate and you're on TikTok, you can go to my link in bio right under my profile picture, and you'll find the links there as well. Okay, the EU is preparing to tighten sanctions against Belarus to close a loophole that allowed Moscow to import luxury cars and other Western goods banned by earlier sanctions. The fact that Belarus does not have the same sanctions imposed on them as Russia does is just ludicrous to me, because it is so evident, and they're not hiding it, that they're a Russian proxy state. They're literally an oblast of Russia at this point, and they're just doing Russia's bidding. And they're helping Russia. They're storing Russia's nukes. They're storing Russia's soldiers. They literally authorized their territory in the beginning of the invasion to invade Ukraine. They had given their territory up to Russia to strike Ukraine. The fact that Belarus, that they're still debating or preparing to tighten sanctions 2.5 years into it is ridiculous, because while you can argue that, the Emiratis don't know that Russia is using the UAE for all of these things. Of course they do, but you can argue it, right? On a political level, if you were Emirati government, Belarus is so obvious. They're not even hiding it. Hi, Rhonda. The death toll in Kharkiv has risen to 6 and the number of injured to 16. The enemy had previously struck with S-300 missiles, Synuhubov reported. Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that Russians hit Kharkiv and Lubotin with 15 missiles at once. And that is the print house. Filtration camps for Ukrainians are being built in Russia, reports the National Resistance Center for Ukraine. Large-scale construction has begun in the Russian Volga region under the guise of children's pioneer camps. Hi, Lucy. According to the National Resistance Center, the Russians are building modular houses, more like barracks that will accommodate hundreds of people. The Kremlin has been building a system of filtration camps since the beginning of its occupation of Ukraine. In such zones, people are tested for loyalty to the occupation authorities. They're also trying to create a database of residents of the occupied territories, the center reported. Recently, filtration measures have been intensified on the territory of Ukraine, temporarily controlled by the occupation forces. Particularly strict checks are observed in the south of Ukraine. These are mini concentration camps where people are forced to indoctrinate into outwardly liking Russia. Otherwise, they are literally being they're literally being filtered. And by that I mean torture, psychological and physical torture. It is wild that the world is letting this happen in 2024. And we're calling it filtration camps. But what are they really? They're concentration camps because they're kidnapping Ukrainians and they're putting them in these camps to test their loyalty to the Russian occupation authorities. I'm speechless at this. And someone today on Twitter said that, oh, we could 100% have an election by mail-in voting to occupied territories. And I'm just like, oh yeah, the occupied territories where Ukrainians are being tortured and hurt for speaking Ukrainian, those territories we can we can 100% definitely send mail there. The territories where Ukrainians had to vote Putin, vote Putin at gunpoint. Yeah, totally. Who's going to collect that mail? Do you think that Russia is going to also, like, that's dangerous because Russians are just going to copy and print those ballots and send them back in larger numbers with the candidates that they want? Are you kidding me? British Defence Secretary Grant Shapps announced that a £150 million military package, over 217 million euros, is being sent to Ukraine to strengthen its air and sea defense. Today is also the day of the Ukrainian Marine Corps. So to everyone who's a Marine and who served in Ukraine, and also a Marine, formerly a Marine, or today a Marine in general, since today is the day of Ukrainian Marines, I'm also just going to say, hey, happy Marines Day to everyone who is a Marine or was a Marine in general, because, thank you for standing with us. Norway has banned Russian tourists from entering the country. I'm in love with this decision. Even though it probably hurts Russians. Sorry. I was gonna take a spin on the song that I think every Norwegian hates, which is like the Eurovision winning song by Alexander Rybak, who is apparently a sexual predator and also like a Russophile. So we don't claim him, but I thought it's so funny because it's like, I'm in love with a fairy tale, even though it hurts. So it's like, I'm in love with this fairy tale, even though it probably hurts Russians. Amazing. The government said that as of May 29th, new border crossing rules will be in effect for Russian citizens. They will now be denied entry if the purpose of their visit is tourism. Yep. Why are we letting Russians come to Europe and to other places for tourism? Like, why are we enabling that? Why are we enabling a normal life for them? At the same time, they will be able to enter the country if they have a valid reason, such as study, work, or a visit to relatives. Should not be allowed to do that, but, baby steps. The Russian Foreign Ministry, represented by its spokesperson Maria Zakharova, threatened the final destruction of relations between the countries if that happens. Boo-hoo! Oh no! How will anyone at this point in our existence handle Russia not wanting to have relations with them? I feel like the entire world just wants Russia to F off from them and would love for Russia to want to not have relations with them, because Russia wanting to have relations with you means that Russia wants to invade you. Fantastic, right? Today, Russians hit one of the largest printing complexes in Europe, Factor Druk in Kharkiv. Kharkiv has been the center of book publishing in Ukraine and remains so even under constant shelling. Every third book published in the country is printed by Kharkiv. Is printed by Kharkiv. Kharkiv has been the center of book publishing in Ukraine and remains so even under constant shelling. Every third book published in the country is printed by Factor Druk, wrote the Sense bookstore chain. This is one of the largest full-cycle printing complexes in Europe. So books from almost all Ukrainian publishers are printed there. The Vivat book publishing house stated. Meanwhile, the death toll in Kharkiv has risen to 7, police reported. The number of injured is 16. Yeah. That's a huge, every third book in Ukraine is printed in that facility. And just so you understand, this is what the facility looks like now. So many books were destroyed. NVIDIA, despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the sanctions imposed on Russian military industrial enterprises, keeps on knowingly, keeps on knowingly and covertly cooperating with Russian drone manufacturers. NVIDIA, the chips. Meanwhile, NVIDIA shares have surpassed the $1,000 mark for the first time in history and are trading with a market capitalization of more than $2.5 trillion. This is more than Amazon and Tesla combined, according to the international intelligence community Informational. NVIDIA Corporation is an American manufacturer of graphics processors, video adapters, multimedia, and communication devices for PCs and game consoles such as Sony PlayStation 3 and Xbox. See, the worst part is these big conglomerates, these big companies, working with Russia for their profit and absolutely not caring about Ukrainian lives and doing it covertly and doing it behind our backs. And it's funny how the US is like, how are Russians getting all of this technology? It's crazy. They must be illegally importing it when like NVIDIA directly works with Russians and isn't even hiding it. I mean, they're doing it covertly, but they're not really hiding it. They're not really trying very hard to hide it. And the US is like, well, I mean, it's $1 billion, $1 trillion corporation. So it's not like we're going to be strict on them because, it's just like, it's going to cost our country a lot. So we're just going to like close our eyes and continuously ask people around us like, oh my gosh, how is Russia managing to get all of these, all this modern technology in country with all of these restrictions? Fine NVIDIA. Fine NVIDIA. Fine them for working with Russia and for supplying them with all of these things that can be used for drones and missiles. Fine them. Okay. This is all I have for you for today, you guys, because it is 1:20 a.m. I am slightly worried that my electricity turn off is going to be in 40 minutes. And until that happens, I would really like to take a shower and maybe turn on the AC in my room so it's not like a chamber of heat. So my lives these days Okay, I should be back. Hello. I don't know what happened, but my internet went off. So you guys, I'm going to go. Wait, are you guys still not seeing me on YouTube? Oh, hi. Yeah, hello. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what happened with the internet, but it basically electricity was supposed to be turned off at midnight. It wasn't. So I don't know, but I'm like, I'm not holding my breath for having electricity for much longer. So I am going to I'm going to go and I'm going to try and take a shower and all this stuff and use some AC before it's too late. And I will see you guys tomorrow. My schedule of going live is going to highly depend on having electricity. Um, and I am, yeah, load shedding has begun, rolling blackouts. Yeah. So I think on Tuesday, EcoFlow should be here, so that shouldn't be. Oh, thank you, David. So that shouldn't be an issue. And but until then, it's going to be flippy floppy depending on whether I have power or not. Alrighty, you guys. See you tomorrow. Thank you very much for being here. You were fantastic. Bye. Bye.